Okay, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Mohammed from GISMA University of Applied Sciences. Today I want to talk about a course that we had 2 years ago at TU Berlin. This course was actually a data science course, and it was for actually a student from multiple fields of study, not just for computer science students. And today I want to mainly focus on how we implemented this course in an interactive and online manner, and what the lessons and findings we learned from this course actually. Okay, so before I start, I just quickly introduce myself. As I mentioned, I am a professor at GISMA University of Applied Sciences. Before that, I was a PhD candidate at TU Berlin. The course that I want to present today is about this period, when I was a PhD candidate at TU Berlin. Before that, I was a data scientist, and I did my master in artificial intelligence and my bachelor in computer engineering. But as I mentioned, we had a data science course at TU Berlin. This course was offered in 2 semesters in 2019, before the corona, before the pandemic. So by that time, we didn't want to have online course for this pandemic. We just wanted to have an online course, an interactive course for data science topic actually. And of course, it wasn't only me, it was our whole research group, including my advisor, Professor Abedian, and my PhD fellows, Mahdi, Hagen, Felix, and Bingar. In the remainder of this talk, I first talk about the motivation, why we wanted to have such a course, and what were the challenges to implement such a course for a wide range of students. Then I will talk about the online infrastructure that we created to be able to present this course in an effective way. And then I will review some results that we gained from asking students to participate in our survey studies. So dealing with data today is a basic skill that everybody needs to know it. It's not only for computer science students or mathematics students. Everybody has some sort of data and they need to be able to process them. Chemists have data, physicists have data, biologists have data, everybody has data. But the problem so far was that only computer science students or mathematics students or some other fields of study that are similar to these two were be able to process data because they knew how to program, they knew how to load and process the data. And we know that other researchers in other fields also need to do this kind of stuff. They need to collect and extract data. They need to create surveys. They need to fit the learning models, visualize the data. So our goal was to design a course for all the students in our university, TU Berlin, regardless of their field of study. So we wanted to have a course that everybody can participate from different fields of study, and they can learn how to work with data, learn the basic concepts and techniques in data science area. And it was a very ambitious goal by that time, because if you look at the data scientist profiles, if you look at the requirements that a data scientist should know, it is actually covers a wide range of topics. For example, you can see here a couple of areas that a data scientist should know. They need to know how to program, especially they need to learn Python programming and data structures and algorithms, databases. They also need to know math concepts. They need to know statistics, probabilities, linear algebra, and other related topics in the math area. They also need to know machine learning, unsupervised, semi-supervised, deep learning techniques. And finally, learning all these concepts, they need to know how to apply these concepts in some domain applications, such as data visualization, data mining, and so forth. So on. So having all these concepts in one course is not possible. It's actually very difficult because each of these topics by their own, they could be a topic for one particular course. And it would be even more challenging if we want to cover both theoretical and practical aspects. For example, we wanted to have one topic from machine learning, but not only teaching it in theory. We wanted to have students be able to also implement those algorithms that they learn in practice. That makes it even harder to cover all these things in one particular course. And when I say we wanted to be able to do it in practice, it means that we need to also cover a lot of technologies that a data scientist must know. We have different libraries for machine learning, different libraries for data processing, different libraries for visualization. So then it was quite very challenging that how can we cover all these technologies, all these concepts, all these theories in one course, especially because our students were not computer science students or mathematics. They could come from different areas. And as I said, our target students come from different different fields of study. They could be both bachelor or master students. And the only prerequisite that we asked them to have was basically only we wanted them to finish their high school to be able to participate in this course. So which means we didn't expect them to know anything about programming. We just needed them to know mathematics at high school level. By that time, many people were skeptical about this course, and they were asking us, how is it possible? What is the right abstraction level for delivering such a course for a wide range of students? So that was about the motivation and the goal that we had in TU Berlin to implement such a course. But now let's shift to the approach that we did to implement such a course and the online infrastructure that we created to be able to effectively delivering this course. At some point, we noticed that there is a similar project at UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley has a course, it's named Data 8, and it actually covers the foundation of data science for non-computer science students. If we look at their content, they basically cover two areas, which is simply about theory and practice of data science. They cover critical concepts and skills in computer programming, and also they cover hands-on analysis of real-world data sets using Python programming language. So we look at their content and thought this could be a good opportunity to be implemented in TU Berlin. But the cool thing about their course was the online infrastructure that they had. They had a couple of cool features implemented for this course. Namely, the first one I can mention is their online textbook. They have an online textbook. I will show it in a few slides. And this online textbook is actually is a web page that you can read the materials, and in the same time you can change the textbook by changing the codes and see the results right away. It is a cool online textbook, I would say. And then they also had interactive Jupyter Notebooks. Jupyter Notebooks, you might have seen them so far. They are available and everybody can use them, but they created a couple of Jupyter Notebooks for each topic of this course that is very easy for everybody else to reuse them for their own courses. And the third feature of their course that is very cool is the ability that you can auto-grade the assignments using these Jupyter Notebooks. So you will be able to write scripts in the Jupyter Notebooks, as I will show you in a few slides, to auto-grade the assignments of the students. So this actually allows you to scale the number of students, because regardless of the number of students that you have, you can easily automatically grade the assignments of these students by just pressing one button. And the last thing that they created, which is also another cool feature of this course, is a Python package library, data science, that is one abstraction for all those technologies that I showed you in my previous slide. So students do not need to learn all those technologies, but they just need to learn this simple Python library. And this library is actually a proxy for all those technologies, and underneath it is using actually those technologies. But for students, it is only one library, data science, which is a simple API for using those features. We adopted and deployed this course at TU Berlin. And this is actually the online textbook that they have, and you can find it in their website, data8.org. As you can see, it is a simple web page. You have text similar to other web pages, but the cool feature of this online textbook is these code cells that you can see here. This 3x4 here is a Python code cell, and the cool thing about this textbook is that you can edit these cells. You can write Python codes inside their online textbook, change the values, and right away see the results. So this textbook is interactive in that regard. This shows the Jupyter Notebooks that they created, and we also updated and improved them for our course. So in these Jupyter Notebooks, we can have both textual data and also Python codes again. Here you can see, for example, this name section is a text cell. We can put text inside it. And then again, we have a code cell here. We can write Python code inside the Python cells. And we use these text, these Jupyter Notebooks inside our lab sessions. For example, I was holding these lab sessions. I explained one question to the students, and then I asked them to solve this question. Whenever they have a question, they can try to change the cell, they can try to answer it, and then finally I jumped in and tried to answer the exercise and tell them what was wrong with their approach. So that was very interactive and very online, and that was one of the main reasons that students liked our course a lot. And here you can see the third feature that I mentioned, auto-gradable assignments. Again, you can see here a Jupyter Notebook. We have a text cell explaining one question for a student. This cell, the second cell here that you can see, is a Python cell. For writing the answer here, the students usually need to do some programming here to calculate the answer. And the cool thing that you can see is the third cell, actually, which is the grading cell. Here we can see it, but for a student, it is a hidden cell. They cannot see this last part. And this last part is actually some script that we write for auto-grading the answer of the question. So whenever we want to auto-grade this notebook, we basically run these auto-grading cells, and it automatically evaluates the answer of the students and give them the points if the answer is true, and otherwise the students do not get any points for that particular question. And this is the last feature of the course that I mentioned, Python package. As I mentioned, if you want to, for example, load a data set, visualize it, you need to use a lot of Python packages that I mentioned in the previous slides. But using the data science Python package that UC Berkeley guys created, the students can easily load data set, process it, visualize it. As you can see here, for example, we load the data, we create a table, and we visualize the values inside it with only a few lines of code, because this library actually creates a nice abstraction for the whole technologies that we need to use as a data scientist. So we basically created our course based on three components. Lectures. In the lectures, we mainly use the online textbook. We also had labs. As I said, we use interactive Jupyter notebooks inside our labs. And also we had assignments, which were again Jupyter notebooks, but we had hidden cells inside these Jupyter notebooks to automatically grade students' assignments, actually. Here you can see the architecture of our whole system that we deployed at TU Berlin. I do not want to bother you with technical details here, but I just wanted to show you the architecture to say that we had one server, and in this server we installed a couple of softwares. Each student has its own workspace. They can fetch the Jupyter notebooks, work on them. They can fetch the assignments, answer them, and then they can submit it. And the Jupyter notebooks comes to us, and then we can collect them and quickly grade them, automatically grade them by just pressing one button. And then we can have the results of the exam or results of any exercise in just a few minutes. So that was about the infrastructure that we deployed at TU Berlin. Now let's look at some results that we collected based on the surveys that we created to ask opinions of the students. The first chart that you can see here is about number of participants. We had more than 120 students from different fields of study, from 40 different fields of study. And we also had a request, more requests from students, but unfortunately, we didn't have enough capacity to have more than this number of students. As you can see, so sorry, the figure is in German, but as you can see, we had students from different fields of study. Of course, the majority of them were computer scientists again, because they like this topic more. But we had other students from many domains, such as philosophy, such as energy, and other domains, as you can see in this figure. So this chart actually shows the opinion of the judgment of the students, how they assess our course. Here we asked them overall how much you like the course, how was it useful, it was interesting for you. 1 means the most positive basically option, and 5 is the least positive or the worst option. As you can see, 70% of the students believe that this course was successful, was positive for their career. This is again show how students believe that this course is useful for them. Again, 60% of them gave us 1 as the best level of this question for this survey. Again, this is a chart that shows how students are motivated to pursue data science area. As you can see, again, around 80% of them are highly motivated to continue this field, and this was due to this course actually. This question evaluates how students found our course, difficulty level of our course. 1 means very difficult, and 5 means very simple. And as you can see, again, the majority of the students assess the difficulty level of our course fair, to be fair. This chart shows how students found the programming environment easy to use. And as you can see, most of them, again, majority of them assess the programming environment that we created for them as easy to use. This heat map shows the correlation between the grades that the students achieved during the assignment and the final grade that they achieved in the final exam. So I think I need to explain the German grading system. In German grading system, 1 means the best grade, A star, and 5 actually means fail. And in this axis, x-axis, you can see 300 to 700, we had 7 homeworks, and each homework had 100% points. So in best case, one student could achieve 700 points from all the homework. And in best case, one student could achieve 1 as the final grade of the exam. As you can see, there is a correlation between the assignments grades and the final grade. That shows our assignments could actually prepare the students for the exam very well. Here again, you can show the distribution of the grades for different levels of the grade for students of the bachelor studies and master studies. As you can see, they are mainly achieving the same grades, but it is interesting that our bachelor students could achieve better grades, which is 1 and 1.3. The reason might be that the master students underestimated this course, or maybe our bachelor students at TU Berlin are generally better than our master students. Here, this chart shows how students from computer science, blue, mathematics, orange, and all the students answered the questions of final exam of different topics. The first set of bar charts are about Python programming. The second one is about data processing. The third one is about statistics, and fourth one is about machine learning. And the last one is the total of the grade. Again, we can see that the students from computer science, mathematics, and other students perform similarly well. And again, interestingly, our computer science students achieved performed worse than other students. Maybe again, they underestimated the course and thought that they know everything about this course. So let me conclude my talk. We found that for successfully implementing such a course, we need actually 3 things. The first one is to select the right level of abstraction. If you want to have a wide range of students, you need to have a very good level of abstraction to be able to attract all the students and keep them with yourself during the course. The second thing that we learned from this course is that these kinds of course should be interactive with hands-on exercises to be able to keep students engaged. And this is also very important, to have interactive online sessions to be able to have students with yourself. And the third thing that we learned about this course is that to implement such a course, you need to have a technical infrastructure, online infrastructure. So students do not need to worry about how to install these technologies, how to install these softwares, and they can easily come to the classroom, open their browser, and go to the Jupyter Notebook and read the exercises, implement them, and get involved with the content itself, not the tech challenges that are out there to install and maintain these softwares. So this is also important to have this kind of online tech systems. So with the lessons that I learned from this basically course, we at our GISMA University, which is a private Hochschule or University of Applied Sciences, we are using the same lessons to implement our courses. So we have a bunch of technical courses. So we learned from that course that it is a good idea to put all these concepts into one course, but it would be also better to have a specific courses for different topics, such as Python programming, machine learning, big data, but we also implement these courses with the same principles. We use both theory and practice, and we also use the same online infrastructure to be able to engage students in every session. So every session that we have for each topic of these courses are divided into two separate parts. First, we learn about the theory of the approach, and then we go to the Jupyter Notebooks and try to implement the approach in a practical way. So that is the best approach that I learned to teach these kinds of courses for students that's not necessarily have the enough background for these courses. And if you are interested to learn more about our experience, I would suggest you to read our paper. Unfortunately, our paper is written in German, but there are a lot of machine translation services that you can easily translate and read the paper if you are interested. Thank you for listening. I would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, Professor Mohammed. Thank you for this enrichment presentation. And Hamid will facilitate the questions for our colleagues. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hamid.
Mohammed, super interesting. Thank you so much for presenting of this pioneer software. Also, I heard about this UC Berkeley instrument, but maybe I want to start with the challenging question as a kind of the criticizing of this kind of the platform, especially for business students. I mean that in your sample size, as you showed that most of them, these students, out of the 120 students, as I see that 70% of that, they know about the coding and such as that. But for example, for business students or economic students, for example, then they want to use a logistic regression model as a one case or utility function as in this case. Maybe they prefer to work with more objective software, even the closed software such as SPSS, which is not comparative with the, for example, open source such as R or Python, but it is really objective that just they can select some tools and define the condition or assumption and get the result. So my question, I be that for this type of students, especially as I said, the business, economy, and even for engineering, this type of the coding R or Python is a really hard to communicate with that. I have heard some of the new platforms such as Jomavi, it's also based on R, or some of that is they try to make an objective platform just as a kind of the objective selections based on R or Python. So what is your, because of your experience, if we have this problem or this attitude among of these students, how we can encourage them to use coding platform? And what's your suggestion or recommendation?
Okay, so it is an interesting question. Thank you. The thing is, yes, I know the challenge. The thing is, once the students learn about these kind of systems like SPSS, Tableau, these kind of Excel sheets, they are reluctant to start coding. But the goal of this course actually was to attract those kinds of students, because if they see the benefits right away, they will be more motivated to pursue this course. The thing is, if we look at our programming, the traditional programming courses that we had, they were boring. You start with learning about a bunch of foundational topics, variables, functions, classes. They are really boring, and sometimes it is also difficult for students from other domains. But if you ask the student, okay, you want to have a graphical user interface, I give you this Jupyter Notebook, and it is actually a nice graphical user interface. You can write text in it, you can have figures, you can have everything similar to SPSS, similar to Tableau. But look at this cell. You can also write some code here and then have a nicer visualization that you cannot have in SPSS or Tableau. I think with these kinds of approach, we can attract the students because they can right away see the benefits of coding, and they do not need to go to a huge textbook to learn a lot about the foundation of programming. They can only write a few lines of code, see something nice, and then be motivated to continue in that area and learn more about programming and these kind of systems.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really interesting. Would you mind to share the URL or the address of the Jupyter Notebook? I mean that in the chat that my colleague also and our audience can also look at that. Although you presented in your presentation, but maybe it would be beneficial if you share in the chat.
Yes, I will write down in the chat, first of all, the URL address of the Data 8 project from UC Berkeley. You can also check that. And they also have other materials. And I can also share the link of the Jupyter Notebook project that you can also learn about it and how to install it and how to use it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Hamid, can I ask him a question?
Yeah, please.
He presents something which is really new and which is very interesting. Then, if I want to use the approach of the data sciences as a method approach in my lectures, and in developing also my lectures, in process and steps, clear steps from Professor Mohammed. Can you give me this process to be step by step?
A step by step. Okay. So first of all, you need to see whether your content fits such an infrastructure or not. But you mentioned data science and other programming courses. They can easily be implemented like that. There is no problem. So for example, right now we are again in the process of deploying such a system in our university, GISMA University. We need to first have a server. You need to either buy it or rent it, and then you need to install a bunch of software. As you can, let me again go to this slide. So as I showed you here, a bunch of softwares need to be installed. One of them is this Jupyter Hub. This Jupyter Hub is actually a software that manages the Jupyter Notebooks for a bunch of students. Whenever you want to have a server and have this system for multiple users, you need to switch from Jupyter Notebook to Jupyter Hub. And it is a free software and you can easily install it on your server. Then you need, of course, one authentication method, because you do not want to have everybody on the web get access to your system. In TU Berlin, we use the TU Berlin LDAP system, but you can have other authentication methods, user password authentication or token-based authentication. You also might need this NB grader software, which is useful for auto-grading the notebooks. As I mentioned, this software lets you write hidden scripts in your Jupyter Notebooks to be able to evaluate the answer of the questions. And you need to also have probably a GitHub repository. The GitHub repository is useful for putting your teaching materials on the online, and the students can every week, for example, whenever you have new content for the students, new content for the lab sessions or homework, they can get access to the GitHub repository and fetch the content automatically by just clicking on a link into their working environment. And then each student needs to have a working environment. There are a bunch of options to implement that. You can have physical users on your server for each student, or you can virtualize it by using Docker containers, which is another software to virtualize the workspace of each user. But basically, you need these kinds of softwares. And we also documented these softwares and how to install them. I can also share the link of that in the chat.